Let's take a walk over to Grant Park and the iconic Buckingham Fountain. Well, 3 weeks out from the race and crews are already starting to bring in their lifts and equipment, getting ready for the big event. The iconic Buckingham Fountain, currently not turned on, unfortunately, but definitely iconic to the city of Chicago nonetheless. Greetings, my friends, and welcome back to Mike Allen from Chicagoland, currently broadcasting from the city of Chicago for the first time in a while. Happy to be back down here. There's a big event coming up in the next couple of weeks, and I came downtown so that I could profile it. So please come and join me, and let's get started. And that big event I was just talking about is the first ever NASCAR street race event. Now, the reason I wanted to come down and profile this story is because it's the first time that NASCAR has ever hosted a street race. And I think it's pretty cool that the city of Chicago is going to be that location where this event is being held. So what I was thinking about doing is maybe just walking the track, showing some of the sights and sounds of the city along the way, and talk a little bit about this event. So we'll kind of see where the day goes, and hopefully this will be an informative video. Now, right here in front of Buckingham Fountain is the starting line right here on Columbus Drive. You can see they're already starting to set up pit row, and we'll see how close we can get. I came down here early this morning before the crews and the crowd start showing up. That way I could probably have a little bit more access than I would have if I was here at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Let's see what we can do. There's a little bit closer look of the work that's been done so far on pit row. Let's try to sneak around here down Columbus. This is where the cars are gonna come starting out over here. And it's a pretty big track, pretty big wide section of the road from that side to this side. Now, there's actually going to be 2 races that take place here on this track. The first one is going to be part of the Xfinity Series, which is the level below the top race within NASCAR, and that's going to be called the Loop 121. I believe it's going to be 55 laps around the track, 121 miles. And then the big one of the Cup Series, which is the top level of NASCAR, that takes place on July 2nd, and that's going to be called the Grant Park 220. 220 miles. Crews are already starting to show up early this Saturday morning to continue the work on this track. I read an article, I think it was in the Sun-Times a couple weeks ago, that Dale Earnhardt Jr. came to check out the track, and he noted how it's going to be quite a few turns. I think I saw on the map there's going to be 12 turns, both left and right. It's not going to be a traditional oval track with nothing but left-hand turns. It's going to be quite challenging for the drivers, according to Mr. Earnhardt, complete with all the bumps and bruises of a street road that you and I have to deal with. NASCAR drivers are going to have to deal with, manhole covers and all kinds of divots and bumps in the road. Now, straight away from the start here, it shows that Columbus is all paved. So it doesn't look like there's too many bumps and divots in the road here when you start off on the race. Now, as the drivers make their very first turn here at the corner of Belleville and Columbus, the repaved portion of the track ends, and they make their first turn towards Lakeshore Drive. Let's head over there. Now, NASCAR is celebrating its 75th anniversary this year, and this is the very first time that they're ever going to host a street race. And you normally don't see this type of race in stock car racing. It's mostly in the open wheel circuits like Formula One. Here on very busy DuSable Lakeshore Drive in Belleville, this is where the first right turn is going to take place. It's pretty cool. It's going to go down from like 5 lanes down to 3. Cars are going to be bumping into one another, trying to jockey and maneuver their way through this track. Now, I don't watch much NASCAR or auto racing for that matter, but I'll make an exception for this race because it's the first of its kind and it's taking place in Chicago. as we walk along DuSable Lakeshore Drive here up to the third turn of the race. Just wanted to talk a little bit about, my history with auto racing. It's not very extensive. As I mentioned, I don't really watch a lot of it. But one race I never miss is the Indianapolis 500. Going back to when I was a kid, it was always a rite of passage into the summer. And that's a big reason why I enjoyed watching it. A lot of my family's also from Indiana. It's kind of always been my Super Bowl of auto racing. It's one of two sporting events that I don't miss. The Super Bowl being one of them, and then the iconic Indy 500. Squirrel walking up the tree here. Hey, buddy. One thing I also wanted to point out is that the city's going to be hosting some concerts in conjunction with the race. Miranda Lambert, the Chainsmokers, takes place right here in Grant Park. Now, buried behind those trees there is the iconic Field Museum, which is the second icon that drivers will see after Buckingham Fountain as they're making their way through turn number 3 here on DuSable Lakeshore Drive. That's what they'll see. Pedestrian foot traffic has to walk this way to get to the next turn. But if you were to go down that way, that would take you to the Field Museum, Planetarium, and the Shed Aquarium, as well as the home of the Chicago Bears, Soldier Field. There's a little bit better view of some of the museums that drivers might be able to see from Lakeshore Drive. There's the Shed Aquarium, and then still buried behind the trees is the Field Museum. We're gonna head up right over in this general vicinity here to get a look at the next turn. So the city and NASCAR announced that this race was happening last summer, and it was under the former administration of former Mayor Lori Lightfoot, who was just ousted in this previous election. She wasn't very popular, and I do know that this street race was not a very popular decision amongst local business owners, because it's definitely going to disrupt their business, which I totally understand. And putting myself in their position, yeah, I can completely have sympathy for that. However, as a sports fan and somebody who's interested in a first of its kind NASCAR street race here in Chicago, I'm gonna definitely embrace that side of things. Now, there's no pedestrian walkway to get over there, but see where those cars are turning? That's where the turn 4 is gonna be, right here onto Roosevelt Road. There's the iconic Field Museum in the background, and drivers are gonna head this way towards Michigan Avenue. There's Roosevelt Road with Soldier Field off in the background. As I mentioned before, the home of the Chicago Bears, but hopefully not much longer. Within 4 to 5 years, that won't be the case. And Roosevelt goes over the metro station here. A better view of Soldier Field. Spaceship in a stadium. Well, I'm glad I looked at the map, because drivers will not be going down Roosevelt towards Michigan Avenue that way. They're actually going to be turning back onto Columbus Drive here, heading that way. So that's where turn 5 is right here at the corner of Roosevelt and Columbus. So let's head down this way. I can imagine the drivers could pick up some speed on this stretch right here. It's pretty wide. Plenty of space to maneuver around other cars. And there's no turns for at least a half a mile. Yeah, and this section of Columbus Drive has not been paved recently, so drivers are going to have to deal with all the same things that we do. Yeah, this is definitely the longest stretch of the track so far. Next turn is coming up at that intersection there. So halfway through the 12 turns on this track is turn number 6, which is kitty corner from turn number 1, back here at the intersection of Belbo and Columbus. And drivers will turn here onto Belbo, and then finally make their way to Michigan Avenue, up at that intersection straight ahead there. Let's head over there. I would make the strong argument that there's no better city than Chicago for summertime. It's absolutely brutal in the winter, but man, this city is got something going on in the summer. of iconic parks, recreational activities, people out walking their dogs, jogging, enjoying the nice weather. Yeah, it's a great place to be in the summer. Advertisement, which includes a picture of former South African President Nelson Mandela. I always think of that movie Invictus where Morgan Freeman plays Mandela, about the South African national rugby team. Matt Damon played their star player. Right here at the corner of Balboa and Michigan Avenue is turn 7, and cars will head down that way. One thing I did want to point out though is right over here, Chicago Hilton along Michigan Avenue. Those that have seen the movie The Fugitive might recognize this spot. This is where the climactic scene took place between Dr. Kimball and Charles Nichols. And they had a lot of outdoor shots of the building right along Michigan Avenue here, and there was some interiors filmed. It's the stretch of road down Michigan Avenue, and finally they're going to be racing next to some buildings here, which is kind of what I thought the entire race course was going to be, weaving in and out of the city streets. Didn't realize it was going to be over closer to the parks, but that's okay. I guess this is more practical. So yeah, when I first read about this race, I thought it was going to kind of be like the Blues Brothers in that iconic scene at the end of the movie where they're weaving in and out of the city streets of Chicago, driving underneath the L. Like I said, that wouldn't be practical for a NASCAR street race, but it would have been fun to watch nonetheless. Turn 8 is right here at the intersection of Michigan Avenue and Congress Plaza Drive. And essentially what it is just a semicircle that's going to curve around and then eventually meet back up with Michigan Avenue. Right here in front of the Spearman and the Bowman statues, be turn number 9. It's just a continuation of Congress Plaza Drive right here at the intersection of Wells and Congress Plaza. Closer look at the Bowman statue across the street. Here's where the turn is. Cars will come racing out this way and end up over there back towards Michigan Avenue. And I should point out the Bowman and Spearman statues are kind of like the gateway into Grant Park. This is the way I actually came this morning when I drove down here, parked my car and walked over Wells Street and headed over towards Buckingham Fountain, going in that direction. Coming up on turn number 10, getting into the double digits now, and almost to the home stretch. And turn 10 is right over here, Congress Plaza Drive, and back down Michigan Avenue. NASCAR and city officials really limited the amount of time going to be spent on Michigan Avenue, because the next turn is right up over there at Jackson, right before you hit the art museum. Now drivers won't see this, but just north of turn 11 along Michigan Avenue is the Art Institute of Chicago and the iconic lion statues that are guarding the front entrance. And right across from the Art Institute is the start of Route 66. Take it all the way into California someday. Back on the track now, here is turn 11. Cars will come here down Michigan Avenue and turn down Jackson. Up to the final turn and the almost completion of the track. So yeah, the Art Institute is right back behind those trees in that building over there, and here's Jackson Street where the cars will zip right down. Across the street now, yeah, it looks like parts of Jackson have been repaved. But then when you get up on the bridge here, looks like it gets a little bumpy. East Jackson Street Bridge. And straight up ahead, we're back at Columbus and the final turn on this track. And the 12th and final turn on this track. It's right here at the corner of Jackson and Columbus. And straight away that way, where all the construction workers are, is where pit row is and the start and finish line. So yeah, straight behind me is where the race starts and finishes. So let's head over there and conclude this one loop around the track. Much of the sidewalk is closed on this side too, as they prepare pit row and get ready for this first of its kind race. And it looks like Buckingham Fountain has been turned on this morning, just in time to finish up this video after doing one whole loop. And one more thing before we go. Fans of the TV show Married with Children will recognize this shot here. Got Buckingham Fountain and then the Aeon Center. This is right at the beginning of the show when the opening credits are rolling and you see the Married with Children logo. This is the shot that they use. And I just want to point out, about 6-7 months ago, I did a video where I profiled a lot of the movie houses and TV show houses in and around the Chicagoland area. And one of those houses was the Married with Children house out in the suburbs. So I'll put a link down in the description below to that video. Had a great time filming it, and hope you'll give it a watch after this one. So I really do appreciate you taking the time to watch my video this evening by the time it goes up. Had a great time of just checking out what this event is going to entail. Just as a reminder, it's July 1st and 2nd. The first race is the Loop 155, which is the Xfinity Series. The big race of the Cup Series is going to be the Grant Park 220. 220 miles, 100 times around the track. So about 2.2 miles each time. I don't think I'll be coming down here for the event. I'll watch it within the comforts of my own home in front of the television. Don't need to fight the crowds that I know this event is going to bring on top of an already busy summer within the city of Chicago. But I think this is a good place to end the video, so just want to say thank you for watching. Really appreciate the support and following me as I continue on this YouTube journey. If you wouldn't mind hitting that like and subscribe button, I would greatly appreciate it. There's other ways you could help me out in growing the channel. I'll put links down in the description below. That includes my brand new Mike Allen from Chicagoland Facebook page and my Patreon account. Anyways, this is Mike Allen from Chicagoland, signing off from the city of Chicago. I'll be back next week with another video, but until then, don't you go changing.